Hello, guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the BlackFrost cast. These are your hosts, Mohit and David, and we're here with another podcast in which we talk about a variety of topics such as politics, news, gaming, technology, movies, education, and a lot more. David, take it away.
Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you guys enjoyed the last episode that we uploaded. We had a great time recording that episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So thanks for watching, thanks for all the feedback and criticism, thanks for the likes and the comments, and just all the views. I mean, I was surprised in the one day we had like 30, 40 views.
Yeah, definitely. It went from, I think it went from about like 9 to 45 in like one day. So I know that it's sitting at like a good 50 or something right now, but in our opinion, it's beating the amount of views on everything we've ever uploaded on this channel. We understand that building a YouTube community is definitely something that's very hard, and we both would definitely like to thank everyone that has taken the time to listen to some or all of the podcasts. It's something that very much helps. So anybody that's listening, thank you so much. David, anything else you want to say?
I think you summed it up pretty well. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Also, we don't currently have really any feedback, obviously, because this is something that's obviously new. We don't have that larger fan base, but any of you that are listening and would like to leave any feedback, it would very much help us improve the quality of our podcast and definitely have more content that all of you are interested in. But yeah, let's get on with today's topics. So something that we kind of would like to start doing this week is for now, we realized that the last podcast went on for a good hour, 15 minutes, and that's about the time that we'll generally go for each week, maybe a little less or more. And we realized that a lot of people, including ourselves, don't have enough time to listen to necessarily all of that. So since we have this podcast divided into categories, we will have the the start times for all the categories within the description below this video. So if you want to skip to, say, politics or gaming or something, that'll definitely be an option from here on out. David, would you like to start talking about some of what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, alright. So, categories. The first category we're going to be talking about is going to be politics/news. And in those, we're going to have three major topics we're going to go into. First one is Black Lives Matter. The second one is going to be AT&T and Time Warner, the merger. And then the last one is going to be sort of talking about the election and how much it actually cost.
Right. For the gaming and technology section today, we will be talking about the recent voice actor strikes going on across the country and the world. We will also be talking about Apple's new MacBook Pro design, as well as the recent issue of Samsung Note 7s catching fire and the recalls associated with them. If we do have a little bit of time there, we might also address remasters and go back to some of the conversation that we started last week, but that's, again, something that we'll do if we have a little bit of extra time.
Alright, so the next category after that is going to be movies. And in this one, we're basically just have one topic. We're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed and the new movie trailer that just came out.
Yeah. For the education category, we'll be talking about this article regarding 6 ways the next president can improve education, and it's something that we believe is very important to touch on with the election underway right now. And we'll also be talking a little bit about the FAFSA. And yeah, this was just a general overview of exactly what we will be talking about today. So if you guys are interested in all of it, feel free to just listen to the whole thing. It definitely helps us in terms of feedback and views. And if you are pressed for time, if there's anything specific you just want to hone in on, just visit that description below and just click any of the start times that we have. All right, David, take it away with the politics and news section for today.
All right. So first thing we're going to talk about is politics and news, and in that, the first topic is going to be Black Lives Matter and how it's sort of becoming an issue for some police, and departments and sort of just becoming a bigger problem than it really should have been. So recently I was reading the Wall Street Journal and I came across an article talking about how because of this Black Lives Matter and because of police with the race like being blamed as racist and all that stuff, it's been causing a little bit of a problem for the good cops that just want to do the right things and follow the rules. Now they're having problems where they're holding back and they're having trouble to actually want to do something and take action against African Americans because they feel the moment they do something that's beyond just talking, people are already starting to record them and starting to call them racist, and they don't want to lose their jobs, so they're scared for their jobs that if they even touch an African American, they're gonna get labeled as racist and they're gonna get their jobs, like they're gonna get kicked out of their jobs because of it, which is sort of a big problem. Actually, in the article, it read how a female cop actually let herself get beaten by a couple African Americans just so that she wouldn't use. She refused to use any lethal weapons or any weapons that she had on her, just so that she wouldn't be labeled racist and she wouldn't lose her job. And I think that's the biggest problem with this Black Lives Matter is it's becoming an issue where the good people and people that want to just do their jobs, like the police,
Right.
they're getting really affected. So Mohi, let me hear some of your opinions on this.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily disagreeing with anything you said. I do believe that it is a problem, and a lot of cops are fearful for taking any action at all, even if it's in self-defense nowadays, just because of all the media outlets out there really going against everything that cops are doing. But I am also going to say that I believe that this should not be the case at this point. I understand that there's been a lot of drama with the Black Lives Matter movement. And a lot of drama with police shootings, and I believe that police should be able to take action, regardless of what the public thinks, regardless if anyone's recording. I believe that they need to do their job. They need to protect themselves too, if they need to, and they shouldn't worry about what everyone's saying because in the end, the media is always going to hate on everything that the cops or the African American community do, and it's something that they can't change. So I believe they should just ignore everything going on in the media.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I definitely agree that they shouldn't be too worried about that. I think the biggest thing is the media is the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone. The moment you get on those news sources and you see yourself there,
exactly, yeah,
everyone knows about you, and the story gets so twisted, and it's so one-sided that.
Right, exactly. It's really. I have taken a class recently about photography, and what I have taken away from the class is that a lot of what happens when you record or take a picture of something is really conveyed by the person doing it. So, whether you're looking at a picture, even if you're looking at actual footage from an event or a picture from an event, it never tells the full story, whether you think it does or not. Even if you're seeing what's happening right in front of you, that's never going to tell you the full story. You need to have actually been a physical witness to the situation or one of the two parties involved. I believe that, like you said, media is just the worst thing that can happen to you.
Yeah, for sure. One more thing relating to the Black Lives Matter. Actually, same thing. I can't recall if it was the same article or a different article, but they also say that now it's becoming a problem where the police are more likely to attack or just actually pull over the white community or just any other race more than they are for African Americans, just because of that same problem where they just don't want to be labeled a racist and they don't want to have problems. I think it's starting to become a little unfair because now it's like, okay, well, now it's
they're essentially targeting the white community now instead, which is just as bad.
Yeah, it just turned the sides. Now they had to target some other community and lessen up on the black community just so that they won't be labeled racist and so the media doesn't get to them. I think we should really consider changing and really focus on this fact that we can't just constantly be like you said, we can't be worrying about the media, but we also can't have just the media constantly blaming or labeling people racist just because they had to take action, violence, or they had to do self-defense because it was on their own right. So I mean,
Right.
I know actually, sorry to cut you off, but we actually read an article before we started this, before this podcast.
Did
and
we?
actually talked about how one of the leaders, one of the people that really strongly believed in Black Lives Matter, was given an opportunity to go and make decisions like police do. So he was given a weapon, and he had to make some choices about, like, here are some scenarios, and here's like a common scenario police might face, right? And he has to make a decision of whether to protect himself by shooting the victim and killing him, or not doing anything. And there was also a video I actually watched a while back, and it's really hard. You can't tell. I mean, I think there was only one time when he got the scenario right, but all of the other ones, he either got shot, or he shot someone that wasn't, he was unarmed. And that's really one big thing. It's not
Right.
that the police are racist, but it's just that they have lives, or they're scared when they see
Right.
someone, right? They don't know what they have. Like,
That's
they have
true.
something behind their back. So
And I believe that you have to also give some cops credit. I mean, there's stereotypes out there, and whether we like it or not, I mean, we all have them ingrained into our head. We see something that's going on, even obviously within the African American community. Yeah, I mean, some of those things may not be true, but a cop's job is to really check it out, figure out what's going on, protect the community. And I mean, yeah, those stereotypes are there, but if the cop has to take action, he's going to, because that's, again, what society kind of teaches us about everything. And it's unavoidable is something that I like to say. It's something that we just can't, we can't like really work past.
yeah,
If that made
definitely
any
agree with that.
sense, right?
Yeah. All right.
And just sorry, one other thing I would like to add is that we do make it seem like cops are like maybe like angels right now, but I'm going to say that yes, there are plenty of cops out there who have done wrong to many races, and again, that kind of goes along with what I was saying about stereotypes. I mean, they're ingrained into their heads, and they really themselves can't help it. I mean, it's something that they believe is wrong, and they're going to fix it. But at the same time, I'm not defending them. There were a lot of really horrible cases recently and throughout history that should not be overlooked, and I feel like a lot of that is really where all this media and bad press towards cops come from. So I would just, something that would kind of sums up what we're both talking about here is really just, when you see a cop doing something like that, just really don't. We're not telling you what to think, but this is the way we see it. Is just remember that they're not always doing it because they're the worst cop out there. Don't compare them to like someone or a cop out there that has done wrong, who was actually done wrong against a race. But just try to see it from their point of view, going along with that article we read. I mean, as soon as you start seeing it from a cop's point of view, you start to understand a little bit of why they shot someone, or why they were doing what they were doing. So, and that also goes the other way around. A cop needs to learn to see things from the other race's point of view, from the civilian's point of view, because I believe that also matters too, especially when the cop's usually armed. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I want to emphasize, again, I can't say that word. I just want to sort of reflect on the fact that unless you know the full story of what happened, you can't judge a book by its cover, right? Same thing with police and any other race. Civilians, you can't judge the situation just because you showed up halfway through and started recording the scene where the cop is beating a citizen, right? You have to make sure that you understand and you know the whole story that went through, and not just that one fight scene, because that could just mean anything, right?
Right,
so, I mean,
exactly.
It's very challenging. But Mohit, do you have anything else to say about that? Or?
I think I covered my thoughts on it. Again, we're not telling everyone what to do or what to think, but we're just providing our thoughts on it. Maybe it may show you another angle of the situation, which is what we try to do with everything in this podcast, is definitely get other angles of the situation.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so going on to the next topic, a little bit different from Black Lives Matter. It's going to be talking about the AT&T and Time Warner merging.
AT&T Lives Matter.
Yeah. All right. So you may or may not have heard. It's been a really big topic. I mean, I know it showed up in the first page of the Wall Street Journal many times this week. But just to give it a little summary of it, AT&T is pretty much buying out Time Warner, and Time Warner is pretty much a TV service company. They have different channels like HBO, which is like the best, famous thing that really AT&T wants the most, and they have other channels that AT&T wants to sort of integrate with their cell phone plan, sort of make a plan where you can sort of watch more shows on your phone and have a specific plan and stuff like that. And the merger as itself, they actually bought it for, the numbers are all jumbled, it depends where you look, but it's about $85 billion. So just what is your opinions on this topic, Mohit?
I have not been following it at all. I have seen a few articles about it throughout the week, but I believe that I've seen similar news in the past with Time Warner and Comcast. I'm not completely sure if that was a thing, but I do believe that I have heard about something about that in the past. So I just would like to say that I think Time Warner is definitely stepping up their game, and they're making the right deals with the right partners. And I mean, it could be either it could be really great for the consumers or horrible. I mean, I don't know. Would you maybe talk a little bit more about exactly what each company does? Because I'm not completely familiar with all of them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So sort of go into it. So pretty much AT&T has bought out Time Warner, and they want to merge into the company and own them. And with that, they want to have specific plans, different, like, you know how you have a cell phone. AT&T is a cell phone provider like T-Mobile or
Right.
Verizon, and so they want to have like sort of like how maybe T-Mobile has the unlimited plan right now that just came out, T-Mobile One, something like that. Which they have a plan where you can watch HBO and all these different shows for a certain price, and that has actually some good and bad points, and many people have been debating this a lot. I know actually our presidential candidate right now, Donald Trump, his response was if he became president, he would destroy this merger and would not let it happen. And I could sort of see his point. His point is that this is sort of turning into a monopoly where there's going to be less people, less of a market, and so they can drive up the price as much as they want because there's not going to be as much competition. So it's sort of turning into a monopoly where you buy out Time Warner now.
Right.
If you want HBO, you sort of have to do whatever AT&T wants. So if they make the price $100 a month, $20 a month, it's up to them, and it's sort of it's sort of a monopoly turning into that. So I know a lot of politicians. I believe Hillary Clinton's vice president that's running right now. I can't now remember the name, but I know he also does not support it.
Right.
So
That's why I did not know anything about that, and I was going to disagree with you at first. I thought it was something that was really great that they merged, but actually now that you put it that way with the whole monopoly situation and stuff, I could see exactly where you're coming from. And actually, I changed my opinion right there. Is that I could see how this is really bad for the consumer. Actually, I thought it was going to be beneficial, but it's actually worse because like you said, consumers are pretty much forced to accept AT&T prices for everything now. I mean, they don't have that option. I mean, you look at something like this in the long run, especially with how big this merger was. I mean, they could potentially consume other smaller cable companies or phone providers or really anything, and like you said, form a monopoly. And I believe that is definitely a bad thing.
Yeah, and there's also a positive view on this. I mean, it's all in one bundle, and if AT&T is able to, is able to look at the good consumers and actually make a good deal, then I can see this becoming a good thing, right? It's all in one bundle, and it's so much more efficient. Where you can everyone has a phone right now, and that's a smartphone, right? Almost everyone in the population. So when you're able to add TV shows, especially shows that everyone likes, like HBO, that Time Warner owns right now, you're making more of a bigger name for yourself, and you're having more consumers want to buy your products. But obviously, the bad part is you have to know how much the consumers are willing to pay, and make sure that you're not driving the prices up so high just because
That's true.
you have a better deal.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, yeah, the benefit of this is definitely, I mean, Time Warner kind of gets that AT&T brand name, and it's something that's it's definitely very, I guess, kind of helpful to them in terms of when they market their channels, when they really advertise everything. Because when you look at the AT&T name, everybody knows what that is. Everybody knows AT&T, big cable and phone provider. A lot of people have not heard about Time Warner. They may have used their services, but they have not necessarily heard about Time Warner themselves. I'm accused of being one of those people. So, yeah, I think that could be one benefit of this whole deal is that there's a definite advertising benef- benefit towards making a deal like this between these two companies.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you say that you even have really heard of Time Warner,
Right.
and I gotta say, I'm the same. I mean, I've heard of it before, but I haven't really understood what they did
Right.
until it
Exactly.
actually just came out right now. I know, actually, something else I read on the Wall Street Journal. Definitely, guys, if you want, check that out. They have a pretty good deal. If you're a student, they have really good deals, $4 a month.
Advertising.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's a wonderful newspaper source. And so I was reading about how during this presidential election, usually companies don't like to do these different kinds of mergers and these different kinds of deals because they don't know what the new president's going to actually do and if they're going to accept the deal or not. But actually this year, companies have been bold and they've actually been investing more and actually coming up with different deals, which is sort of surprising. I mean, I guess just like the election, just like how we talked last week about how it's so much different than what we're used to. I guess this is something that's causing the whole economy just to be acting a lot differently. Companies are setting out deals before the presidents actually show up.
Right.
And I mean, it's something really interesting to how everything is just different than what it usually is to be expected.
Right. Definitely.
Okay, before we go on, is there anything else you would like to add on to that, or?
I would just like to say that I did address negatives and benefits of the whole deal, but I think that this is something that we really we can't really form a full opinion on until we really look at it in the long run. I mean, especially with how recent this deal is. I mean, it could potentially they could potentially separate again in the future. So I think this is something that we definitely have to look at in the long run, see how it really affects consumers, and then maybe in a year or two, definitely see exactly how, where, and how it went.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so going on to the next topic, we'll be talking about another thing that I actually found as I was reading on the Wall Street Journal, and that's actually the cost of our current election. So it's actually really interesting. The cost of the election actually went down from 2012
That is
to
surprising.
2016. Yeah, it was really surprising. In 2012, it was like $3.44 billion.
Really?
$3.44 billion. Just think about that a little bit. This year is actually $3.23 billion. So it's
a couple billion off.
20 million something off, but 0.20 billion off. But just sort of think about how much money that is. That's just insane amount of money.
I mean,
just
in the
election.
I would just like to say that for even with this being less than 2012's election, I mean that is still a considerable amount, and I did not realize that election budgets were that high. So
yeah, I mean it really took me by surprise as well. And let's actually sort of talk about both our candidates. Donald Trump, he spent $190 million so far. It's estimated. Whatever he's been traveling after this article. And Hillary Clinton has actually spent $400.5 million.
Jesus.
So it's an insane amount of money. But I mean, Trump, he said that he supported or he sponsored pretty much all his funding came from him, or most of his funding came from himself. So that's why even like Hillary Clinton, she has her foundation, so she's able to get that money. And Donald Trump wants to save that money, so he actually stated that since we have social media, the cost of elections could go down because you can advertise and you can state and you can do everything on social media nowadays,
right.
where it's so much easier And I know even Donald Trump, he has less ads than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is constantly coming out with different ads, constantly everywhere. So I could see that big price drop. But I think the biggest thing, which I'm going to ask you about, is just think about, is this really fair for a normal American citizen? Does he really have a chance to become a presidential candidate if he has to spend over $100 million just so he can get the chance to stand out?
Yeah, yeah. Well, David, you know what? I think that Trump really, I think he really set kind of an example that by looking at these figures right now, I mean, 400 versus 190, there is a huge difference there. I think with what you said about how he was talking about social media, I think that's definitely a trend that I believe that candidates might move to in the future because that's true. I mean, social media dominates everything now, and um, I think that marketing campaigns, especially of this caliber, of this amount, is ridiculous. And with the existence of free social media out there, I mean, look at Trump. Literally spent less than half of what Hillary spent on marketing, and I mean, he is up there with. I mean, he's one of the top two candidates. So, I mean, the fact that he made it that far with that amount of money, I mean, that says something about exactly what marketing campaigns do and how I believe they're ineffective, especially the amount of what Hillary spent is, in my opinion, I think a lot more than she really needed to when you look at Trump's figures. So
Yeah, for sure. I know, just for me, when I was looking at it, it's just thinking about it. Trump has no experience, right? We can agree on that. He has no political experience. Because of that, he has to advertise himself because he cannot get funding for people because no one really knows about him as a politician and no one's gonna vote for him as a politician. So it's just same as thinking about if you tried running, right? You would have to fund yourself for at least for a couple of months before you became known and before people actually wanted to sponsor you, and just flying around, scheduling everything, just managing the amount of money and resources it would take.
This YouTube channel is a direct example. I'm just adding that in there.
Yeah, and it's just so much of funding and so much money that you have to spend that I feel the election and being able to run for president is almost non-existent unless you're a billionaire or you've been in politics for so many years where you have people that can sponsor you. But I feel like a normal middle-class citizen has no chance at all to even survive the first week of running for president. And I think that's a little bit something that isn't fair and should really be addressed and sort of sought out, because how come I can't run for president because of I could not have any funding. I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. And sir, what's your opinions on this topic?
Here's the thing. I believe that what you said is true in that Trump's, he's already a billionaire. I mean, he's one of the richest people in the world. And, I mean, look at how much he spent. Even 190, even though it's less than Hillary's budget, I mean, $190 million. That is still a lot of money, and I'm very surprised to even see that. No matter how small it is, I'm still surprised to see that much, just because Trump was already a billionaire. And I mean, look at how much he himself had to put into this election in order to get as far as he did. But at the same time, I don't believe that it's necessarily showing how a normal citizen such as you and I can't run for president, because in the end, it's. I believe that it's just about partnering with the right people. Really, like you said, making yourself known. But I mean, if you just go out there and really find people to partner with, some people who would definitely be willing to fund your campaign, I believe that a normal citizen could definitely make it far in that respect.
Yeah, I sort of see your point. I'm going to disagree a little bit with you. Yeah, definitely partnering with people. Yeah, that I agree with. But the sort of problem that I find with that is, who are you going to partner with when there's other people?
That's true.
I'm talking about, unless you have that experience, think of yourself as Donald Trump becoming just a random person that's never had experience in his life with politics, trying to run. You can't really find, unless you have Donald Trump as your BFF or like I don't know someone else, right? Who can support you and will support you. You really just have to get that experience. You have to have either political experience, or you just have to have the money, and that's where I'm sort of coming from. Is anyone can run, obviously, but just finding that sponsorship and finding those people that will fund you.
Definitely, that's the hard part.
Really hard.
That is so it's definitely possible, but it's definitely I agree. I think it's unfair. Because even though Trump has no political experience, I'm sure he's had a lot of friends with political experience. So I'm sure it must have been probably wasn't that hard for him to really enter the presidential race, the presidential campaign. I think the budget that he spent, even though it's smaller than Hillary's, really said a lot about that. So
yeah, for sure, it really helped him because of his money. He was able to definitely jumpstart his campaign and then get the foundation started and have people then start supporting. So that's the difference between us and Donald Trump, I guess. Unless we're billionaires, we're at a disadvantage.
right.
Anyways, do you have anything else to end off this topic? Or?
Other than that, there's no chance of me running for president anytime soon. Not really.
I guess we'll see, right?
Right, maybe. Vote Mohit for president.
If it's me against Mohit Patel, please vote for me. Do not vote for Mohit.
I will make sure Batman is included in the national anthem. Alright.
Okay.
Moving on. So the next category that I will touch on is gaming and technology. So here's something that I found out about today, and I really had to talk about this in the podcast because it was something that very much interested me, and I believe that this is something that we can definitely have some good discussion on, is the recent voice actor strike for video games. So I heard about this while I was watching a podcast from another YouTuber, actually. So, yeah, podcasts are going around lately. But, yeah, actually, I did not know about this, and some really big companies out there are, under siege by these, by some of these protests and strikes that are going on. Countless voice actors, like very famous ones, are going on strike right now. Voice actors that normally do freelance work for EA or Insomniac or Activision, or Disney, or really any publisher or developer, thousands of them went on strike, and it's part of the SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. They formed a union against all these game development corporations, and they're really buckling down. They want something this article talks about is they want higher pay. They want higher secondary pay. They want a stake within the game's production. So normally, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but how voice acting work goes is a lot of what they do is freelance. So you essentially go from company to company. You could be working on multiple games within the same week, and you're not really fixed to a salary or really anything. You get paid. I believe this article says $825 for 4 hours of voice work. So you essentially get paid large sums of money for doing a few hours of voice work, and it's all freelance. And a lot of these voice actors are demanding more. They really want to have, I guess not really fixed salaries, but they want secondary compensation when it comes to, like, if a game sells 2 million copies or 8 million copies, they want a certain percentage of that. And before I give my thoughts on a little bit of this, I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on the situation and what you think first. So, take it away, Dave.
Yeah, you know what? I think they have a pretty good foundation and definitely got some good points on why they want to do a strike. Our economy, we have, since we got out of the Great Depression, or the Depression into 2008, we sort of been slowly climbing up. And I think definitely now, as we're going a little bit higher and increasing our growth in the voice actors and a lot of different people, like I know teachers are constantly going on strikes, and construction workers, everyone's trying to go on strike and asking for higher wages. I think they sort of have a good point where I believe they should have sort of a stake in the company and sort of in that game, because they are a foundation of a game. have you ever tried playing a game where on mute or just without anyone talking? Unless it's actually made to be like that, and specifically made for the fact that the character doesn't talk.
Yeah.
You'll constantly have dialogue and you'll constantly have characters talking. I think that's really important. That like without them, you don't have a good solid storyline and you just don't know what's going on. So I think they have a definitely right to ask for some stakes and have an actual set of funding besides just doing the work, because they might not always have the opportunity to go from one company to a different company and just voice act all the time. So there might be times where they just can't get the funding anymore. And so I believe that they should have some kind of different secondary income that they're making from those games. But that's sort of my opinions.
There's something I would really like to add is, so when I did mention that those 3-digit numbers that they're getting paid, $825 for 4 hours or even more sometimes, do you think that that's enough for a voice actor, or do you think that the voice actors have a reasonable reason to really strike against something like that?
It's sort of hard for me to judge. I think it all depends on the situation. Obviously I'm not a voice actor, so I wouldn't know too much.
Right.
I think it's a good amount, but it depends on when they work and
right.
Just when do they have the opportunity? Because maybe he's making $2,000, but maybe he can only make that $2,000 in only like a week, and then he doesn't work for the rest of the month. So he might. It all depends. Where maybe 1 month he won't even have an opportunity to make money. So I think it all depends on the voice actor, and obviously I don't have too much experience in this field.
Right.
So it's definitely hard for me to judge. I think if he's constantly having work and he's constantly able to work and get the money and can get the jobs, then I think that's a reasonable price, and that's actually a pretty good price. But I think if he only gets to work once every while, if he gets lucky, I think that's when it starts getting a little bit of a problem, and that's where like the secondary income, where they get the stake in the game, really would help them sort of fund their future and sort of have a safe zone.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I never knew that voice actors were freelance up until today, but I do agree that so $825 in my opinion is an amazing salary for 4 hours. Yeah. I think that you're literally making almost $1,000 in a day, and I think that that's something that I would love. But I think that I do agree that I think a large reason for this strike is there may be a lot of voice actors out there that aren't necessarily getting a lot of freelance work out there right now, and they may be angry. I mean, what they're making is not enough to live on, especially if they're only doing like maybe a little bit of freelance work every week. But at the same time, we have these top voice actors out there in the industry also on strike, and that's what really strikes me as something that's interesting, because they're doing all this freelance work. They must be getting paid very well. I mean, you look at Troy Baker. He's voiced a lot of. He's one of the most famous voice actors in the industry, and he's voiced thousands of video game characters, and possibly many games that you and I've played. And he's almost like a billionaire off of everything that he's made through freelance work. So it's not impossible. And I think that the strike is really, in my opinion, pushing it. I mean. So I'm just going to quickly read a comment from this article. Is by one of the heads of the studio. Is that as much as voice acting is really important, it's only less than 1% of making a video game. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's not as big of a deal, but I don't think it's only 1%. I think voice acting makes the game good, and it just gives the game a storyline, right? If you just play a game with no sound, it's boring. You don't know what's going on. So I think they play an important part, but obviously you also need good gameplay, you need good quality, you need different things. So definitely they're important, but they're not as important as everything else that has to go into a game.
Definitely.
And sort of just going back, sorry about that, just going back for the, we were talking about the 820 for 4 hours. I definitely agree with you. I think that's a wonderful salary. And I think the one reason I don't understand is how are these bigger voice actors, the ones making millions of dollars off of this, how come they're on strike? Like, I can understand why a regular voice actor would go on strike, just because possibly that you don't, like, companies usually don't want the average, they want the really well-known voice actors, and that's why they're making the money, big money. But I think the average voice actor really doesn't have a big chance to get good deals and get that chance to actually make profit, because the big guys are always taking it away. So that's, I don't know, it's really confusing as to why they're striking.
Right. Now, David, one thing I would like to ask you is, do you think it's fair? So this is something that was also described in the same article and a couple other sources that I've consulted. Is that you know, these voice actors, a lot of them are freelance. They're all freelance, I'm pretty sure, and they're demanding a stake in a lot of these games. When do you think it's fair that they're demanding a stake in these games when they're still only doing freelance work? They don't want to stop doing freelance work, but yet they want to have a stake in companies that they don't necessarily work for. Do you think that's necessarily fair to people that actually, like programmers and artists and people that do work for the company who actually do have a stake in the game? What do you think about that?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and it's a complicated one. I'm sort of like 50-50 on that. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. They shouldn't really be getting. They're free workers and freeloaders, and they shouldn't have the opportunity to be really getting those stakes in the company. But I also see their point of view as like it's sort of a cushion zone where they can make some profit,
right?
Just in case they're not able to just constantly keep going to different companies. But I think it's definitely not too fair because of just the fact that they are going from company to company and they're not really settling down. So I can sort of see where it comes and the section of the article is coming from, where it's not entirely fair for them to be taking that much. I think they should, instead of asking for a stake, they should come to a compromise and maybe have something else, like either when the game gets released, maybe get maybe some amount of money,
definitely,
or definitely have a different way of going about it than just asking for a stake in the game.
Yeah.
Especially if they're just constantly going from place to place, right? It's not. If I'm a construction worker and I work for myself, and my company just goes, or I go in, I fix something at a restaurant, I'm not gonna ask the restaurant to give me a stake of their profit just because I fix something or I help them build it, right? So I mean, there definitely should be a compromise that should have some way to like help the voice actors get by and have that safety cushion.
And something that the article did touch on is, I mean, the industries actually, offered the union to include a 9% wage increase. I think that's ridiculous. It's nearly a 10% wage increase for something that's already a really high salary. And I think that's almost ridiculous that the union, they turned this down. I mean, the industry actually went out of their way and they offered this much to freelance workers. I mean, we got to remember, these are freelance workers and they don't have a stake in the company. And another thing which I find almost hypocritical is they don't want a stake in the company. They want to keep doing the freelance work. They don't necessarily want to work for each company that they're at, but yet they still want profits that are made when that game ships, when that game's already on sale. And I think that's something that's a little bit ridiculous. One last thing I would like to touch on is, I know that this has been drawn out for a little bit, but there is one last thing that this article mentioned that I found that was really interesting, and I did know about this previously, but it's something that I kind of wanted to share our opinions on for this is, when you do the freelance work, most of the time you're not often told exactly which game you're voice acting for. So there was a quote by someone who actually worked on Fallout 4 and read entire scripts for the game, but didn't actually know until for a year and a half later that he was working on Fallout 4. So I think that this is something that's they were kind of mad that a lot of voice actors were angry that they wanted to know which games they were working for. Obviously, it looks good for the resumes and portfolios, but they wanted to know exactly which games they were voicing for, and they were kind of tired of the secrecy of of the industry, and that was another reason for them going on strike. So I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, especially when you look at a lot of movies too, do the same thing with their actors and voice actors. They try to keep a lot of things a secret, especially with auditions. You often don't tell people what you're auditioning or acting for. So I thought that this was something that's common, that you should not be debatable at all, because this is something that really protects a lot of the content from being leaked and stuff like that. So David, how about some final thoughts about that topic?
Yeah, you know what? I definitely agree with what you just stated right now. Yeah, I don't think they should really know what game they're making, because they're just freelancers, right? They're just going around and they're making money. Why you're worried about which game you're actually doing it for? That really isn't your problem, because you're not working for the company. You're sort of just going, and you shouldn't really be getting too much into their details. And I think it's just sort of a little. I mean, I see where they're coming from, where they want to know sort of what they're working on, but I think it's sort of companies are trying to keep a secret, just because if you let them know, then they might go around start leaking that they're voice acting for Fallout 4.
Right.
Who knows, right? So I think they should keep it a little bit more secret and sort of keep it more. And I agree with the companies where they pay the voice actor to speak and do the lines. They're not paying them to work for them for the whole production value. They're just asking them, okay, here's your lines, voice them out, and then goodbye, right? I mean, simple.
Right.
Boom, 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 and we're done.
I have to agree with that. I think the strike is ridiculous on the final note, and I don't know if is that what you think as well, David? Because that's that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm really thinking, is this strike is unnecessary, and it's really pushing back a lot of great games out there that I'm looking forward to. Hashtag Spider-Man PS4. So that's just something I wanted to touch on. David, any final thoughts?
Yeah. You know what? In the beginning, I sort of thought, I could see where they're coming from. I sort of supported the strike. I didn't know too much about it, but I definitely changed my opinions, and I think it is also ridiculous, and it just isn't really necessary.
Right.
For the things they are asking for, I think that it's just they're asking for too much, and they should really think about, you're not working for a company, you're just going from company to company, so you don't really have the rights to know all the information or to have a stake in the company and all that stuff. But anyways, that was a great discussion. Let's go on to a different topic. Actually, just Apple's new MacBook Air. MacBook Pro. See, I keep messing that up.
Never confuse the Air with the Pro. Worst mistake ever.
The Air, actually, I believe it might be canceled, and so they sort of transformed the Air into the Pro, which we're going to talk about.
Really?
Before that, it came out recently, and we sort of just wanted to talk about some features, and we just looked at a video a little bit of like the new things, and I mean, to be honest, it looks cool and got me a little interested. But obviously, I bought myself a MacBook Air during the end of summer, so obviously I'm not just gonna go spend $15,000 for a new MacBook Pro. But without further ado, let's actually talk about the laptop. So, looking at the video, the laptop, the MacBook, it definitely is thinner than normal, and it does look nice. Some features that they actually included were 4 Thunderbolt ports. So there's actually no USB. There's nothing. It's just 4 of the same ports where you can charge all 4 of them. It's all the same charge. You can go into any. If you can't extend your cable all the way to the right side, but you can extend it to the left side of the computer, you can definitely flip flop, which is really cool. I think it's a little not convenient, because you constantly have to carry around adapters and plug them in, and then you have a big brick there that you plug in different things. And I know that's one of the big problems. I know I have MacBook Air, they don't have an HDMI cable, so now I have an Amazon converter, so it's just a big white, foot-long cable with a big box at the end of it where you plug in your HDMI, which is a little ridiculous. And they cost a lot of money too, the different adapters. So I mean, it's all Apple and their price range, and they're trying to make as much money as possible. But the one really, really cool feature is the touch bar.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just something that really was interesting. You have the keyboard, and on top of the keyboard, there's actually a touchscreen kind of bar that you can touch and you can click. So if you're sending a message, you can click on emojis, or it definitely works with Microsoft Word. You can actually change your font and everything like that, and there's different search engines, and you could like backspace, whatever, different cool things. And I found that really, really cool and interesting to integrate that. So it's small. It's like a small touchscreen without actually touching your screen. So those are sort of my opinions. Mohi, take it away and sort of explain what you thought as you watched the video.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I think that the biggest thing that really stood out to me personally is definitely the touch screen. Not touch screen. I keep calling it touch screen, but the little touch bar at the top. I read an article about this earlier in the week, and I kind of shrugged it off. I ignored it. I thought it was another really small thing that Apple added that really wasn't innovative. But I watched this video on The Verge, and there's just so much you can do with the touch bar. They really actually spent a lot of time and detail really refining and putting a lot of functions in there. And what I really like about it is it's context sensitive. So it really changes based on what app you're in. If you're texting or if you're messaging, for example, if you're on social media, you'll have all these emoji options on there. If you're using like a game or something, you'll have extra features on there. If you're on the internet, you'll have a search bar on there and various other browsing features. So it's contextual. That's something I feel like we haven't really seen, with a lot of these touch functions that companies like to roll out. And I thought that was very, very impressive on Apple's part. I do have a small problem with the MacBook Pro, this recent iteration of the MacBook Pro, and I think this kind of applies to every Apple product out there.
Yeah, he's a hater.
I am not necessarily a full hater of their phones because I own the iPhone 6. I love it. I hate the iPhone 7. I think that's ridiculous. But anyway, I'm not a fan of their MacBook products at all, and that's only because of how thin they are. And I know that may seem like such a ridiculous thing to really think about, but I mean, think about how much money. This is just kind of my viewpoint on it. Is think about how much money you're spending on these. Literally, $1,000 or $2,000, or even the cheaper ones are really expensive. And you get these really skinny looking laptops, and I think that that's innovative. I think that's really cool that they're able to compact that much power into something so sleek and skinny. But at the same time, not all of us, really, I take really good care of my stuff, and there's people out there that really, they really don't necessarily like neatly take care of all of their technology, the way that companies think they do. And that's a problem. When you look at skinny models such as the MacBook, I mean, how long do you honestly think that could last? I mean, especially when you get a lot of people that like really carry their laptops around, college students like us, for example. We carry our stuff around everywhere, and I'm assuming that Apple definitely built them to like really withstand a lot of that, but it's just a small gripe that I have. I don't really feel comfortable owning something like that's extremely skinny. I think it's just something that I have a gripe with this in pretty much every MacBook model, every Mac. So David, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Oh yeah, I want to say something about this. All right, so we're gonna try to keep this as debate friendly as possible. We're gonna try to not kill each other over this.
We will try. We will try. It may happen. One of us may go silent for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see your viewpoint. They are definitely pricey. The cheapest, I believe, that the MacBook Pro is actually $1,500, and that's without the touch bar. So it's so much money, and you don't even get the nice new technology. I know if you want the 15-inch, the cheapest you can get is already like $2,000. And it's just insane amount of money. And I mean, I get that, I understand that, and it's Apple, so yeah, you expect that. And I know, because I can personally say I'm an owner of the MacBook Air. It is really thin. I find it actually to be very well built. It's all nice steel, metal, whatever, and it's definitely built where you open, you hear any cracks. It's nice. It feels like it's heavily built. and it definitely feels like it could withstand some fall damage. But I could, yeah, definitely see where the thin. It's something you have to get used to, right? If you have a
Right.
thin MacBook, it's something getting used to. And I know I carry it in my backpack, and I just pull out my case. So it's just really getting used to that small size. But I think that's really helpful for college students, where you don't have to carry around a big, heavy, 20-pound computer. Just it takes 20 hours to boot up.
No,
This
no,
thing's fast.
I'm not necessarily saying that the computer has to be like 20 pounds or anything. I mean, I don't even think that exists. But I'm saying that I'm just you look at a lot of stuff. I'm not I'm trying not to be biased here. I do personally favor a lot of Windows brands, laptops, and stuff like that. But I love Apple. I love what they're doing. I believe a lot of what they do is innovative. But I mean, you look at a lot of the Windows and laptops; they have a certain amount of thickness that just generally feels right. I mean, even Chromebooks from Google. I mean, the thickness, even in their smaller laptops, just generally feel like the perfect thickness, where you don't necessarily have to worry about really it accidentally like breaking. If you were just like maybe to like put it in a case or something. Or I feel like I'm sure the Apple, like I said again, I believe the Apple MacBooks don't do that. They're not that fragile, but it's just by looking when I look at it, that's how I feel. That's just what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, I mean, I see. It's one thing is preference, right? Everyone has their own preference and how the size and style of the computer, how they want it, and it's just something you get used to. After a while, it doesn't come to you. It feels nice when you hold it. I know I have my Lenovo laptop, and I pick it up on one side, and just, you could hear everything cracking, and just like it's normal plastic.
Right.
When you just pick this up on one side, it's nicely, you don't hear anything, it's silent. Obviously, it's all up to your preference and just how much time you spend with it. It definitely takes a while to get used to. And besides that, that's my final sort of views on that. Mohit, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I'm not biased against Apple. I will never buy a MacBook.
We'll
That's
see
what I
about
would just
that.
like to say.
Right. I'll make sure I'll convince him.
Maybe.
All right, guys. So, without further ado, I know that took a while, so we'll actually skip some topics and we'll actually move on to the movies category.
Sorry about that. If we can, we will definitely touch on Samsung's catching fire and killing people and remasters that look like the original game very in future podcasts at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
All right. So in the movies, we actually have just one main topic, and that's gonna be the Assassin's Creed movie, and it's the new trailer that came out. Mohit, you're sort of more of a fan. You like Assassin's Creed a lot, and you sort of like looked at the trailer. So let's start off with you a little bit and sort of have your views on the trailer.
Yeah. So like you said, I am I'm a huge fan of Assassin's Creed. I've recently been spending a lot of time in all of their games. Going for 100% and as much as I can. But very a huge thing with this trailer is what we're talking about here is the trailer 2 of the new Assassin's Creed movie that's coming out. This actually dropped a couple weeks ago. We didn't get a chance to touch on it last week, but I thought it was very important that we really kind of look at it this week. David, I know you're familiar with Assassin's Creed. You do enjoy the games a bit, so I think that this is something that we are both a little bit very much knowledgeable about. So, this trailer came out like 2 weeks ago. It kind of got lost in a lot more of the bigger movie trailers with the more hyped up movie trailers, such as with Logan and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But I did watch it. I haven't necessarily shared any thoughts on it. So I would just like to say that it definitely looks stunning visually. It looks like it is visually going to be really nice. But story-wise, I mean, it very much reminds me of Assassin's Creed 1, if you remember the storyline to that. It's honestly, from the 2 trailers they've released and some information that's come out, I honestly don't really know where this movie's going and exactly what they're trying to do with it. It seems more like they're just trying to release an Assassin's Creed movie, to really push their brand rather than make a really good, innovative, good movie that really kind of pushes the storyline. So I don't know. That's just what I kind of got from it when I saw the trailer. I think it was a great trailer. I'm personally, I may go see the movie when it comes out, or I may just wait until the digital or DVD release. So, David, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, when I first saw the trailer, I saw the first trailer. I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be some movie on Assassin's Creed. I mean, I don't know, it didn't look too cool. Looking at the new trailer, it definitely got me a little hyped, and it definitely looked pretty cool, especially the design and the quality of it looked really well. I know actually I read somewhere that they were doing most of the stunts, like where they do the jumping the haystack. What's it called again?
Right, right.
Geez,
The
I forgot.
eagle jump or
Eagle jump,
something
yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
They're actually doing that as a real stunt, which I found pretty cool. But there was one real big gripe that just destroyed the trailer for me, and that was the animus and how it's sort of not what you're used to in the movies, right? In the games. It was the animus where you laid down in a chair, it strapped you in, and you went into the virtual reality. Oh my god! You go into the virtual reality
Right.
of the game. And in this movie, it's sort of like it's a machine that just connects to you, and then you move with it. And I mean, I don't know. It's not a bad concept, and it looks pretty cool. But I found that that's one of the biggest key points of Assassin's Creed is those chairs, and you sitting in those chairs. I think it just sort of makes it seem not as like in contact with the actual games, and I think it just sort of destroyed the experience a little bit for me. Was seeing that like the animus wasn't what you originally thought. But I'm definitely, when I saw them, especially jumping through the rooftops and all this, it could turn out really well, and I mean it could be a fantastic movie. It looked really good, but it could also, with the story and how it doesn't really tell you exactly how it's going and what direction and stuff like that, it could also be
Definitely, yeah.
not as well made.
Right. And so you were talking about the claw like machine thing that you saw, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to explain.
Yeah. Well, they have addressed that is the animus in the movie, and I do agree that that is something that's really weird that they've done. I mean, you look at the brand. I mean, you look at the entire series. It's always been something you either sit down at or you lay down at. You know, it's never been this giant machine that literally like injects into your spine and like has you moving around, doing things. I mean, if you remember the concept of the bleeding effect and kind of how like all the ancestor skills like kind of rub off on the person in the animus, so I think that would be a great way. It looks like that's what they're doing with this. Is they're kind of a lot of what they're doing is is rubbing off in terms of the bleeding effect, and it's training the modern day protagonist.
Yeah.
So they kind of showed a little bit about that in the trailer. So I understand why they're doing it because practically it does kind of make sense. But at the same time, you have to remember, like Assassin's Creed has always been fiction. I mean, this is a fictional setting, and I mean, it wouldn't have hurt them too much to just use the normal animus that we're all used to. I mean, you're already in a fictional movie, and there's no point in really going for extra realism when the whole thing is already a fictional setting. And
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just that when you play so much Assassin's Creed games and you like them and you're involved with them, and you just see that they just change the animus. It's
right.
It's like different movies. What's the recent movie that came out? Maybe like the Tomb Raider movies. I know that was a long time ago, right? But I know they were definitely a little different than the games. Or like right now, looking at the Teenage Ninja Turtles that came out, right? That was all different from like the comics. And I think the biggest problem with most of these developers and movie companies is that they try to change too much, and it destroys us as fans, and it destroys our feelings towards the games, because now we're just looking at the game and we're like, okay, well the game does this, but the movie is doing that. Like, it pulls you out of the situation, out of the movie, and it doesn't make you focused and as much engaged in it anymore, because just destroying something that's something so basic and something so
Ubisoft has come out and said that they, because of what the movie did with the Animus Claw device and related things, they have said that they're planning to do things like that in their future game entries. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, I think the concept of the Animus being that claw is a pretty good concept, and it looks cool. But I think for Ubisoft to do that in their games, it might sort of just I don't know, make it feel weird even more. Depending on, I think it all depends on the movie and how
Right.
well they make the Animus feel
Exactly.
and how,
Yeah.
how well they do the claw Animus, right? I
Right.
think everything goes down to how the movie actually impacted the fans and how the movie actually did as a whole. And if they went great with the Animus and everything like that, I think then when they add that to it, I think it'll be a great new addition, a great new like different aspect and feature to Assassin's Creed games.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
we'll see, I guess, right?
Right. That's always it's always best to definitely wait until movie comes out and see if it's just in service to the brand or if it's an actual really new innovative story. So I know that we've said a lot of negative things related to the new Assassin's Creed movie. So how about we end on a little of a positive note and talk about a few benefits. I'll go ahead and start. So a few things that I did like is Michael Fassbender, the actor for the modern day hero, and I believe he also plays the protagonist of his ancestor. So I do like I do believe that they chose a good actor. I do like the setting that they're going for is like kind of the Assassin's Creed 1 storyline with a guy being abducted by Abstergo. It looks like this is, and overall, I really do like the aesthetic that they're going for in the past, especially how a lot of those combat maneuvers and like the eagle jump and various other things look like they were pulled straight from the game. So those are all things that I thought that were really nice to kind of see. So David, any benefits that you saw that you think you would like to talk about real quick?
Yeah. So I thought the trailer had great potential. Definitely, like I said earlier, it got me a little hyped on watching it and going to see it. Like you said, Assassin's Creed 1 was a good foundation, and I like that they're going to that more older style Assassin's Creed game. It looks like the area, everything reminded me of Assassin's Creed 1, maybe a little bit of 2, but mostly 1. And I think it's like they're combining Assassin's Creed 1 and 4, where the 4 they had, you played as a character that was pretty much yourself in first person, and you went to the Abstergo and their company, and you saw how everything looked, and it sort of is reflected in the trailer of the movie. It sort of looks similar to that. Like, everything is nice and fancy,
Right.
and high tech quality, but it's also you're getting that Assassin's Creed 1 feel, where you're just that older period of time where they're jumping off, and it's a cool thing, and it definitely looks like it's gonna be really interesting to watch. Even if they mess up on some things, I think it's just gonna be cool to just watch the stunts and the action.
Definitely.
Really looks
Yeah.
promising.
Right. Yep, I have to agree with you there. All right, so let's get on with our final category, which is education. So this week we have come across an article that I thought was very interesting to talk about for our education section, and that's 6 ways the next president can improve education. And this article is written by Time Magazine on October 28th. So I won't go into too much detail about what the article is about. We'll link it in the description below. But what we'll do is we'll look at the subheadings. We'll look at the 6 main focus points that they brought up that the president can use to improve education. I'll name some of them off. I'll get your thoughts on it, and then I'll share my thoughts on it. And we'll share some of our thoughts on these and see if they would happen or if they won't happen, or really see. I mean, if these things are really possible in today's society, especially with where the president's going. So, first thing I would like to touch on is the first thing the article does touch on is expanding access to high-quality early childhood education programs. David, what do you think about that?
I think the most important thing for our future is children and their education, right? Because they don't make up our full population, but they're 100% our future. They will grow up and they will be the ones controlling, running for president, doing our jobs, becoming the next Donald Trump. And I think starting from the basics and really funding and getting the children started at an early age definitely makes a big impact on how far they can get, right? I think overall, even not just before early childhood development, but like every education, we should really be putting so much more money and effort into making our education system better,
Right.
so that we're able to encourage students to get out there and really become better than they can actually become, and sort of learn and become more of a well-developed, all-rounded person.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that definitely encouraging education for children under 5 is something it's very important because especially with psychology psychology wise. I mean, I took a course in psychology. What I found was very important to this is that a lot of learning in a child's life really occurs in those first few years. And I think it's really important to really make sure that they have an education during those early years, because later on, especially from a psychological standpoint, information doesn't necessarily come to them that easily. They need to put more effort into it, while the brain automatically picks up so much in those first years of life. And I think that it's definitely something that's possible. Do I think that the government is necessarily going to put a lot towards that? No, because I believe that they put a lot towards universities right now, and it's something that they deem more important. But I think it's a real problem that they forget about children under the age of 5. I think that's something that they definitely should focus on.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, before we go on to the second topic, sort of want to reflect a little bit on just personal life, right? We have friends, and they've had children, and they're growing up right now. It's just interesting to watch them and how their mental capacity and how they think is interesting. How we have one family friend, they have 2 children, and the one son, his dad is constantly trying to teach him, like, here, look at this, and sort of think about how would you build it, or how would you fix this, how would you do something like that, and definitely teaching the children to sort of think outside the box. And I think that's really reflected on him, because he's now able to, he has a more developed imagination, and he's definitely able to think of things that other children aren't able to. And I think that's really something that we should be focusing on, is like you said with psychology, right? The child, when he's younger, he's constantly learning, and he's constantly absorbing, and he's constantly just developing new skills. And that's where we should really be focusing on, starting off and making the child interested in learning, and making them smart, and just engaging them in different kinds of activities, where then he can carry that on to futures,
Definitely,
to his future
yeah.
careers.
All right. Well, moving on to the next point is focusing on recruiting, training, and supporting teachers. David, what do you think about that?
I think this is also a very important topic. I think the most important thing, right, is a teacher. If a teacher can't teach,
We have come across numerous examples of those.
Yes, yeah, for sure. AP Physics, cough.
Yeah,
Small
that's true.
tip.
Small little hiccup, Mr. Berry, if you were listening.
But besides that, I mean, that's all jokes. He was a great teacher. I think really, teachers, they have the most important job, because they're teaching our future. They're the ones inspiring students to go further and to actually become something, right? If a teacher just calls out, "You're stupid, and you're useless, and you can't do anything," and the teacher just puts movies and sits back at his chair and watches YouTube all day, right? He's not really teaching, and he's not improving the children, and not making them want to learn. So I think we should really focus on, look at the teacher's past, look at how well he can teach, and sort of train him to become an energetic and sort of encouraging person that will always want to make sure that everyone gets the best scores as possible, and really encourage them to become better.
You know what? I would like to say that I think that I think that yes, this is something that the government should focus on. I think that they probably will. They're definitely doubling down on that, especially in high schools, our own high school included. And I think that there are a lot of. I think that the case is that all these teachers, they're great teachers. They would have never gotten hired if that wasn't the case, unless there was some major mistake. But they've all at some point been great teachers, and I think that just over time they just really kind of lose that, like you said, enthusiasm, and they kind of just they just do things for the sake of getting them out of the way. But I've had teachers like that who just really kind of stick to a lesson plan and read off of it, rather than actually going into detail, helping out the students. And I think that it's something that just over the years, it gets worse. And I think a lot of that also kind of has to do with students. A lot of students are I can understand from a teacher aspect that a lot of students can be very, very hard to work with, and I think that that might also be a factor in this. So I think that putting a lot of the blame on teachers is something that's a little bit misplaced here. But at the same time, we do need to make sure that I feel like there should be some sort of yearly test, or some sort of yearly, I guess, just inspection, evaluation, yeah, of the teacher's performance. And I think that that's necessary. No matter how hard it is to work with some students, or I think a teacher should always be doing exactly what he or she is supposed to be doing, which is effectively teaching a student audience.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. Really emphasizing the fact that teachers might be good, but the students sometimes are the biggest trouble. I mean, we've seen it in our own lives, in our own schools, right? Maybe some students don't always want to learn, and they don't always want to respect the teacher, and I think that's also a big problem.
Right.
But definitely getting those teachers and really helping them become better teachers and supporting them, right?
Right.
Because they have the most important job right now. They're teaching our future. They're
Yeah.
the ones that will either break our economy and make us go into a Great Depression again, or they will be the ones who are going to make us boom and become the best country in the whole wide world.
That's true.
Right?
Definitely.
So, I mean, it's up to them.
Right. All right. Well, for the sake of time here, we'll touch on one more of these 6 points. That specific one will be encouraging college savings plans.
All right. So I think it's a very good idea. And I think it's definitely something that should be encouraged, especially from my experience and probably yours as well. It would have been a better idea if I had more of a cushion, where I had more of a savings for college. I mean, even though I go to a community college, I definitely spent almost all my money in the first week just buying 2 books and like 2 online passes. I almost spent around $200. No, sorry, $600 on those books and stuff. And it was insane amount of money, and definitely and on top of that you have tuition and loans and payments. Right. I think definitely if you have if the government encourages college savings and families are able to just sort of save up some money, it'll definitely give them a nice cushion zone where they won't be panicking, and they'll know that they have extra money saved up just in case something goes wrong. I think it's definitely something to consider and something to look at. So that's my opinions. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely speaking from experience here. Is you get a lot of parents out there who weren't necessarily born in this country. They don't understand how the American university works, and I mean the large amounts of money that kids have to pay with tuition right now. Me with that 45 grand every year, and it's it's a lot, and I think a lot of people just necessarily don't realize that until it's too late. A lot of students don't really pay attention to it until their senior year. A lot of parents don't necessarily pay attention to it until their student tells them things about it, and that just kind of it creates a loss right there. Government, a lot of figureheads, the president, or really a lot of people in politics, they talk about better education, things like that, but they don't really explain too much about it. I feel like that's a problem because a lot of people, pretty much everyone watches news, but it's a problem when you start talking about colleges, you start talking about education on TV, but you don't necessarily explain a lot of the details for a lot of parents who don't necessarily really understand exactly, what you're talking about, how much of a contribution, how much money you really do have to end up paying. And I think that's something, with our next president, whether it be Trump, Hillary, or me. I mean, I think that that's something that they very much, have to encourage, and they very much have to explain to a lot of parents. Because, we're an immigrant nation. Thousands of people here, millions of people don't
Yeah.
really pay attention to like the amount that students have to pay for college until it's too late. Then they're struggling to pay off tuition every semester when they could have been saving thousands of dollars beforehand. And I think that's, speaking from experience, that's exactly what me and my family's doing. And I feel like if we were definitely, it might have been my fault, but at the same time, we definitely could have used the heads up a little bit sooner. Definitely with how much we would be, we would end up paying, so we could have ended up saving a few grand here and there. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just even like just knowing like obviously that colleges get cost a lot, but you just don't expect it to be that much right away, and it's just sort of a big shock right away. And if you don't have anything saved up, it's really just a big struggle of, okay, can we afford to really send our student there? Can we really afford to pay this off? Because of just the huge amounts of tuition that they're charging nowadays. It's insane. There should really be encouragement, even like in high schools and middle schools, definitely just have where they have teachers or just have different programs where they could just invite parents and sort of go through it and sort of talk about how like different ways they can save up money, or just have different ways to like encourage saving. Will definitely help.
Yeah, I think a lot of that definitely also has to do with the high school. I think that if at least if the high schools, if the education system takes initiative for some of this, and if the government kind of encourages the high schools to kind of hold some seminars or programs for parents, and they really encourage freshmen and sophomores to go rather than just juniors or seniors, which is generally what we're used to. I feel like that would definitely help benefit thousands of students. So
yeah, for sure.
all right, David, you had a little something you wanted to talk about too.
Oh, okay, so we're just going to sort of go into our second topic of our education category, and it's going to be the FAFSA, right? The Federal Aid for Student
Application for Federal Student Aid. Don't worry.
Okay.
I messed up on that too.
Exactly why I have Mohit here. He's the expert.
I got you. I'm the abbreviation expert. NASA stands for No Soup.
You already messed up.
You get the idea. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get serious for a bit. So the FAFSA, it's sort of more of a tip, especially if you're a senior in high school or a junior. Definitely thinking about going into college, and even if you're a college student and you've never filled out the FAFSA, the biggest thing you can do to really save you money going to the topic we're just talking about how you can improve education is just go and fill out the FAFSA. It will be worth your time. It is the best thing you can.
It's a lifesaver. It's a
do,
lifesaver.
Yeah.
I think that. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry about that. It's definitely. It gives you the opportunity to give you Pell Grants and grants from your school, state, but it also gives you loans and work study and different options for you to be able to pay for your university and tuition. I mean, obviously, even going to community college is very pricey, and that's what definitely did help me out. But definitely Mohit, he has a better experience with FAFSA, right? Because it definitely helped you be able to afford it. And so, let's actually hear your opinions a little bit on that.
Yeah. So first off, I would just like to say that I think that schools right now, especially our own high school, definitely does a great job at encouraging filling out the FAFSA. I think that's a very smart move because a lot of students, I've met a lot of students who definitely don't really know what the FAFSA is or really don't really pay attention to it. So I think it's great that education systems very much pretty almost force their students to fill it out because from my standpoint, 45 grand university, I think that FAFSA was a lifesaver. Yes, I will be stuck in loans for a very long time, but I mean those loans are what got me into such a good college. I mean, I think that I think that the FAFSA, without the loans and the Pell Grants and really everything that it offers, I think that I would be at a loss right now. And I think that I'm sure David is helping you as well because, it's just, based on family income, it's something that's very much, applicable to every student. It doesn't matter necessarily where you're going. So I think it's a very helpful thing that I never realized how helpful it would be until I filled it out and got my aid summary. But, definitely we would like to just tell everyone fill out the FAFSA if you're going to be in college. So.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Even, like I said, I go to community college, but even that is very pricey, and that's why it's definitely helped me decrease the amount of money that I owe, and has helped me to, I took out a loan, but it's able to sort of combinations of grants and loans and scholarships to actually be able to pay it off and make it more affordable. Maybe you're paying $1,000, $2,000 instead of like $5,000 to $6,000. Right, or in Mohit's case, right, instead of paying $45,000, maybe
right.
now he just pay a little bit lower, and that's definitely something helpful.
Right.
And I know one big misconception about FAFSA is what if my parents are immigrants or they're illegal or stuff like that. Guys, don't worry about that. FAFSA has as long as you're an American citizen, even if you're not, they have some different programs and stuff. Just fill it out. They don't care about your parents. They don't care about anything. They just care about you.
Right.
They want to really help you out, and it just doesn't matter. I'll give it a chance. You never know what's gonna happen. Just always have it on file. You don't always have to accept everything you get. But I mean, even if you have enough money to cover the tuition for 4 years, if something happens, a family emergency, something happens, and you lose, you can't afford it anymore, right? You lose your money and you lose your savings. The FAFSA will always be there to help you and always support you. And it's
Right.
definitely just, even if you're not sure, it's not a scam. It's definitely helpful. Give it a try. And you never know. It might save you one day. It might help you.
Yeah,
be able to
definitely.
afford.
Yeah, there's, it seems too good to be true sometimes with all the grants and the amount of money that they offer is surprising. And I mean, it seems too good to be true, but it is true. And I mean, everything that there's no harm in filling out the FAFSA. You're not committing to any loans or you're not committing to anything. When you fill it out, they give you an aid summary and they, you get the choice of what you want to accept and what you don't. So there's just absolutely no harm in filling it out. It's absolutely free, and that's why 100% of college students should definitely fill out the FAFSA.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one thing too is taking out a loan at FAFSA. You have a lower interest rate and you have lower amounts to pay back than you would if you actually took it out from a bank and stuff like that. So it's definitely, even if you can't get any money from FAFSA and you can only get loans, it's still a lot better than taking a loan out from a bank. So definitely, just without a doubt, go for it. Fill out the FAFSA. Don't even think for a second that you can't possibly be able to get anything. Just give it a try, and you don't know. Maybe you'll be surprised at what you get.
Definitely. You can come yell at us if you don't get the great amounts that the government has to offer.
Yeah, yell at Mohit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. I take responsibility. Okay. So, well, guys, that's everything that we pretty much had to offer for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. David, any final thoughts you would like to add real quick?
You know what? I just want to say thank you for listening. If you listen to the whole thing, especially for you guys,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Great support. I know it's a long podcast, and it means so much to us that you were able to listen to the whole thing. And even if you just look at some different parts, hey, that's fine. You just look at the things that you're interested in, and that's cool. Just thanks so much for watching.
Definitely.
And let's really definitely try to get the same amount of views. Let's go higher than that of the first video, and let's get some likes and comments and some good feedback. So we can definitely tell what we're doing wrong, and we can sort of have a better experience and feel better about ourselves and want to keep doing this, right?
Right.
So besides that, just thank you for watching, and Mohit.
Yeah. So yeah, I would just like to agree with everything he said. I mean, thank you to everyone who really tuned in again for the last one, and let's try to improve this fan base. If you really like what we have to say, what we discuss, definitely tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your legal guardians, tell your tell your uncle, aunts, tell your pets, tell the mouse that's in your wall. Just tell everybody everything. It really does help. Increase our channel and our fan base, and that's what we really want to do, because we'll probably do this for a good, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's about a semester or something, and if we realize it's not taking off, we may stop. But it's something that we very much enjoy. We would very much like to keep doing, and it would not happen without the generous support of everyone out there. So it's if you have listened to this entire thing, I mean, props to you. I don't even think I could do that, unless obviously you leave it on while you're doing something. I mean, that's understandable, but yeah, I mean, again, we do have the overview in the comments for future podcasts for those of you who've listened to this whole thing. So you can skip to the section that you're most interested in, the things that you want us to talk about. We'll always have a rundown of what we'll be talking about at the beginning of every podcast. So that's something new we're doing. In every podcast, in the descriptions, you'll see links and videos to some of the topics that we've talked about, so you can get kind of a summary of some of the things that we looked at. And one last thing is, I'm going to do a little bit of advertising here, so here it comes.
Oh, God.
So again, this channel is primarily a gaming channel, so you will find a lot of more than a few, actually, a lot of new videos going up recently covering the Batman Return to Arkham remaster that came out a week ago. I've been uploading the entire Arkham Asylum and City walkthroughs to it, so definitely check those out. Again, feedback and support is all we ask for, definitely, to help us keep this channel in motion. And I very much enjoyed recording those. I hope to keep doing those with future game releases, especially if they regard Batman. But yeah, again, you also find Batman Telltale episode walkthroughs as they come out. We're currently at episode 3, so as the 4th and 5th ones come out, you'll definitely find those in high quality 1080p HD on this channel. Or I believe it was 720, but I will make sure the future ones are in 1080. So yeah, that was my little advertising spiel. So again, I would just like to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to me ramble for the last 5 minutes of this podcast. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for everything, and really, it just means a lot to us that you guys just watch and listen to this podcast, and really just give us the feedback. If you just like the video, that's fine, but we'd like that you give us a comment as to why, right? Give us some feedback, let us know, because we're trying to constantly improve and make everything more friendly for you, and make it easier for you to find the things we want to talk about, right? Like this second podcast, we started introducing what topics we talk about in the categories, and we're also going to include what times do we start, so you can always click